To see so many friendly faces in the audience. Um, President Bruning is not able to be in attendance this evening, so I will facilitate the meeting. And it looks like everybody else is here. And so we will start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you please rise. Okay, great. And we've got something special. First up on the agenda tonight, we have a student robotics programming presentation.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm so pleased tonight to have such a great turnout and recognition of our robotics program. We're going to have our advisors come on up. We're going to have our students come on up. We've got a few slides to share a little bit and some congratulations towards the end, but we're really excited to show what our students have been doing for these last several months in our robotics program and talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to invite Mr. Strobel up, Mr. Saletti, Mr. Bizon, and we're gonna have all the kids come on down. Anybody who's been here that's been part of the robotics program, come on down. We'll do, so high school VEX over here, we'll kind of do middle school, and then we'll do elementary over this way. And we're gonna face the board, all right? So everyone's gonna kind of get in a big half circle here. So we're gonna face, all right, perfect. You're looking really good. Okay, excellent. And we're going to do some mic passing here. So before we start, here we go, Larry, this is on Dante. So I'll stand over here. Before we start here, here's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to do some quick introductions. So your advisors here will help introduce you, and then we're going to kick off into just a couple slides talking about our program. But I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to introduce themselves. So why don't we start with our youngest first? So go ahead, Mr. Bizon.
Sixth grade, so we had two teams. Thank you, Mr. Lusinger. There we go. We'll start off with Gabe Helms. Then we have Mia Satansky, Avery Miron, Max Unkoff, Logan Saval, and Blake Clippinger.
Go ahead, Mr. Sleddy.
All right, so for our middle school VEX team, we've got Parker, Luke, Julia, Drew, Simon, and Kaysen with us tonight. So about half of our team.
So our high school team is 640 A, B, and C that are here tonight. So Cam Thomas, Mila, Nick Ryer, is Eleanor back there? There she is. Kaylin, Wyatt, Ben, Philly, and Sophie and Jason.
So one of the things we wanted to share with the board is just a little bit about robotics here. And as you know, that there's been a robust robotics program in our district for a number of years. But there's been some changes over the last year that we want to make sure everyone's aware of, and just really the importance, and we'll have our students talk a little bit about it, but the importance of STEM education is just so critical to our students, but also to workforce and college and career. The idea of hands-on and minds-on, working with your hands, thinking with your brain. And VEX Robotics really promotes a number of things here. When you think of the 4 C's, collaboration, critical thinking, communication, creativity, computational thinking, the idea of failing forward. We've gotten to watch all of you over the last few months here, but everything you do, you learn from, right? And you create a new iteration of something. So that idea of being comfortable with that's an uncomfortable feeling to not know how to solve a problem and figure it out. So that's something that robotics promotes. When you think of project management, organizational skills, there's so much that goes into and the students can talk about when it comes to the design notebooks and being organized with thousands of teeny tiny little parts here that you can see. There is so much that goes into coming together as a team to solve a problem and manage it. There's computer programming, there's coding involved in it. And really all of those things lead to, preparation for career and or college. So all of these things that our students do, and they're all so well-rounded and go beyond robotics, but robotics really helps develop these skills in our students. So we're going to talk a little bit about curriculum. You'll hear from our advisors talk about kind of curriculum for our students. But in addition to that, VEX Robotics lends itself to competitive teams as well. So all of these students here and others participate in a competitive aspect to VEX Robotics, which we'll talk about. And then there's a continuum as well that we've worked on. One of the things that's new for us is VEX IQ. So we transitioned away from First Lego League at the end of last year towards a robust K-12 VEX program. So we're within kind of one robotic element, so to speak, but there's different stages of that. So VEX IQ really runs from roughly grades 4 all the way up to 8. And then VRC takes over after that. So one of the things that we developed here is we spent a lot of time with the advisors and our principals and directors talking about how do we make it sustainable for our students. And knowing it was our first year, we wanted to create a continuum. So really, this is our continuum outlined here. So grades 5 through 6, in the competitive nature of it, there's 2 teams, 4 to 6 students per team, and they've been able to participate. The goal was to participate in local tournaments, local scrimmage, and at least one local tournament, which they did, which they'll talk about. In grades 7 and 8, again, 2 teams, 4 to 6 students, and the goal was to kind of expand a little bit about that. Local scrimmages, a local tournament, and then work towards the state tournament and participate there, which they did as well. And then grades 9 through 12 are our VRC teams. This year there was 3 teams and average of 3 to 7 students. And again, you can kind of see the continuum there, working all the way to state championship and then worlds, which we'll talk about as well. So we've really developed that we feel a sustainable program for our students that kind of builds upon each other as students advance through the grades. So this was new this year. We're excited about it. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our advisors here to talk a little bit about their individual programs.
Thank you, Mr. Luthinger. Can you go to the next slide?
Yeah, Janine, can you hit that for me?
There we go.
Thank you.
All right, so good evening again. So my name is Jeff Bizon. I'm the high potential STEM teacher, and I've been in this role for almost 9 years now. And there are many students at the other end here who are seniors that first started with us, with Dante and I, First Lego League. So it's really, really cool this year to see the progression and see where these kids are at. So at the elementary level, we teach 3-week units or so, robotics, computer science, and engineering. All students in grades kindergarten through 6th grade get it in part of their science time. We just finished working with kindergartners about 2 weeks ago, and we were kind of blown away with what they were able to pick up from us. So much so that like a couple students beat the levels very, very quickly. So quite impressive. But this year, so transitioning from First Lego League to VEX, this is really the first year where we've had 2 teams for VEX, but also instead of using Legos in our robotics program, 5th and 6th grade, and every 5th and 6th grader, not just the kids in our teams, but every 5th and 6th grader are getting to use VEX robots in our STEM units, and they are great. They remind me of the game show Minute to Win It, where they're 1-minute challenges. The kids love it. A lot of fun. It's been a blast so far this year. So we had our 2 VEX teams, and in addition to VEX, we still continue to offer after-school programming in the field of robotics. We have a set of Sphero robots that are great. They're great for little kids, any grade level. Matter of fact, this year, one of our phys ed teachers and I, we did like an after-school bowling where they actually really bowled, and then they used Sphero as bowling balls as well. So a lot of fun, and we're just really proud of the kids that I want to share. Thank you.
All right, I am Dante Sleddy. I teach K-6 STEM at the elementary school, as well as technology education up here at the junior high school. So for our VEX club teams, we actually had quite a bit of interest. I went to the club fair and I only stayed for 1 day, and it's 5 days long because I had so many kids sign up on the first day. So we actually had 2 teams of 8, which is a pretty big VEX IQ team, but it worked out pretty well. So we had a 7th grade team and an 8th grade team. We were able to practice once a week during 10th period, which worked out. Next year might be looking at doing a little bit more. We competed in 2 tournaments at Queensbury Middle School, and through that we earned a spot at the state competition, which was this past Saturday at Queensbury High School. And next year we're looking to expand from 2 to 4 teams. So I think we'll be able to do that. And then in terms of the classroom, I've put in for next year to get the classroom bundle of robots. We have it at the elementary school, and it would be awesome to have it up here for our junior, senior highs, especially the junior high kids. And Jeff and I are, looking at how can we scaffold it from, 4th grade, 5th grade, and all the way up to 8th grade in terms of using these robots. So it's been great. Nothing against First Lego League. It was great, but Vex is better. I think I like it better. I think the kids would agree with that. I hope they would. But yeah, that's junior high Vex so far.
Hi, everybody. Larry Strobel. So we sort of tried this out in 2016 with a group of kids that we handpicked. And the first tournament I went to, I sort of panicked. I'm like, I don't know if we can do this. And it sort of took off from there. So one of the big takeaways from Vex Robotics, it's very, very heavy in engineering and problem solving, and it's a constant iteration. And that's something this group can kind of speak to, and also project management. And it's something that's really been kind of a shot in arm for the program as far as what the kids are doing and the opportunities that they're open to. So one of the bulleted points there is a link to the Rec Foundation and the number of scholarships that are available just for being involved in Vex Robotics. And that's something that we sort of encourage 10th and 11th graders to look at as they move forward. But the way that we do it, the competition team meets, usually we try to pick 2 or 3 times a week at night when we can all get together, if we can all get together. And I also have independent studies available for students that want to kind of further their approach to each year's challenge. And those fall into advanced programming and mechatronics, which are 2 very popular degrees in STEM right now at the next level. And sort of how we evaluate our year is, we go to tournaments across the state, most of them in Central New York. That's a very big hub for Vex Robotics. And we also try to stay on top of the programming and skills challenge, which again, this year, the team has done very well keeping up with. So as far as, the amount of opportunities that are available to students in Lake Shores, there are a ton, as you know. There's a lot of clubs, sports, alternate activities. So this past summer, what we did is we wrote a half unit elective specific to Vex Robotics and the new challenge for each year. So, what we're trying to do, and if we had some of these students tell you the amount of time they spend in the lab, that is a very, very tough sell for a new student who doesn't really know a lot about robotics, but is kind of interested. So the class itself is geared to pitching the new problem each year, giving them a really good taste of what the process is. And our goal is to compete at one local tournament just to kind of test their efforts throughout the semester. So our 64040C, if you want to step forward real quick and just kind of show of hands. This is a group that we emailed in the summer. Please take our class. Jason, we're glad you stayed with us. You show up and you're like, I don't know if this is my thing. And as far as 640A and B, this group has been with us since the 8th grade, most of them. So it has become a decent feeder, and we hope that this class then makes that jump to the competition team next year, and we start the cycle again as far as Mr. Luthringer mentioned, sustainability. And I always sell it in the beginning of the year, and especially with new students that join the competition team. I said, if you can make it to a tournament, I said, it feels like a rehearsal for much of the year. And you're like, why are we putting in all this time? When they go to that first tournament, it's, I don't know, maybe it's exaggerating, but it's kind of life-changing. The connections they make with students they would, in any other situation, would never meet. They have to collaborate, they have to strategize, and it's really something much different than I've been a part of, as far as just teaching curriculum.
So thank you, advisors. I think we've got to hear from the students now a little bit. So let's hear from our students. We're going to do a little demonstration, but who wants to share a little bit? We'll do kind of a pass the mic here. Maybe we'll start with IQ. Just what do you really like about robotics or Vex Robotics? Who wants to share? Anybody here? Mr. Bizon, do you want to? Anybody? All right, here we go. We got to take.
Oh, I think robotics is really fun for one, and I had a great time uh, with all these students that I'm all friends with now. And I had a great time meeting everybody that I partnered with. And it was really fun because I got to meet students from hours and hours away that I would never meet, like you said.
Doing good, bud.
Yeah, Niagara Falls was the first match we went with, and it did really good. I mean, the robot broke down, but it still went really good. And we also placed 7th, which I thought for our first year, that was really good. Come on, Avery.
No, no. Okay. We're gonna have you demonstrate in a second. What about the next group here? Anyone who wants to share? Put your note, okay, so that means, right? Sign. Come on.
Come on.
Just share anything about robotics that you like. Hasten, what have you enjoyed? How about this? I'll share something. So I've had the pleasure of going and watching all these teams compete over the last several months. And what I was so impressed with is kind of what you were saying. When they have to come to the table to compete, they're competing with another team from a different region of the state, or, you know, could be down the road even. So what's great is they have a few minutes to kind of strategize. And it's so impressive to see our students. I think there's a picture in here somewhere in our slideshow of students kind of hunkered down, connecting with other students, strategizing, talking, communicating, collaborating. So it's just kudos to you guys for that, because that takes a lot to do, especially with people you don't know, right? All right, high schoolers, I know I can put some of you on the spot here. So
Sure.
Cam, you've got
Yeah.
the mic. All right,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'll start off. I've got to say that in my 6 years in this building, I've never found a program that's been more of an investment in the youth. I don't know, but this program does something really powerful for everybody here. There are resources, both physical and informational, that help us succeed in every respect. And I just think that everything we've been able to put together, everything we've been able to participate in, the opportunities that we've been given have been unlike anything else, really. So, yeah, I got to express my gratefulness for that. Yeah, go for it, Ben.
Kind of building off what Camden said, this program, I know between the last 4 to 5 years of time spent here, we've invested hundreds of hours just to go somewhere and then realize, oh, we didn't problem solve right. But it gives you a chance to work with people that you never would have met. And I know personally last year we went to the World Championship and I got to meet people from around the world. And one of the most interesting things was almost no one there spoke the same language. So it really takes the whole idea of collaboration and learning to work together and problem solve to a whole nother level, because now you're relying on other tools like Google Translate, or you're relying on another person who knows parts of the different languages just to be able to talk to each other and really to understand how the two teams can work together. And I know personally, I mentioned when I had applied for some colleges that I did robotics, and I forget the word, the person who gives you the advisor. Yeah, advisor. Yeah, English is not my strong suit. The advisor practically lit up when I said I did robotics. They're like, "Oh, are you interested in engineering?" And they more or less threw the engineering courses at me and said, "Come here for engineering." And before that, they were more or less uninterested. But once you this program is really powerful, especially for those going into an engineering field. Having something like this is at least some experience, which is something that employers are looking for. And it really allows you to move further with things that you want to do in life. And it provides a really powerful and meaningful chance for students that might not get that chance otherwise.
Sophie,
We just throughout this whole program, we learn the engineering design process, and we also build a relationship with all these students that we don't see through half the day. Like in sports, we're on different teams, and this team or this group, we all come together and have one challenge that we just have fun with. We just have a good time, and we
Is it
just,
fun? It's
Yes.
not because you like hanging out with me.
but we just like we've learned to we've grown to have really good friendships and relationships with others outside of school, and to just having a better atmosphere, and like we're just all bubbly inside and just have their own like personalities to bring to the table.
So we're going to transition just for a second. So I want to show the board kind of what it looks like here. So I know we have some students that want to demonstrate. So who do we have? Who's coming down to demonstrate a little bit and talk a little bit about, and you'll have some more time to talk in a second, but talk a little bit about the differences and how the robots build upon each other. All right, Mr. Bizon.
All right, so we have two sixth graders, Avery and Blake, are going to talk about. So the Vex IQ robot is right here in this little arena. The real arena is much larger, but our robot's name is
Bite.
Bite.
And
Okay.
that is really small robot compared to these world competition robots.
They're in all. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But would you like to fire it up and maybe show how the game works a little bit? So as we mentioned earlier, it's a minute round basically, and the kids have to really come up with a strategy to earn as many points as possible. So when we were practicing during our meetings, we met a couple times on the weekends on a Saturday for a good chunk of time to just get as much time together as we could, and that was really effective with them. First try. You only pick up purple blocks, Mr. Slaney. You can only pick up. There you go. Yeah, you got it. There you go. Charged up and ready. Nice. Either we want to talk about like the intake or something? With the buttons.
So basically with Bite, so for the intake, we originally had these little spiral things on the other Bite that are little flaps, but we did some research and found out that a ton of different groups around the world substituted it out for these different wheels. So we've been competing with the wheels for a while, and then mid-competition we found out there was a rubber band attached, and using the rubber band basically slowed our process down. So mid-match we had to remove rubber band, and it helped our final score overall.
Great job.
So you can see the difference in kind of the Vex IQ style. I actually learned a lot about this because I was a scorer for a whole day, which was excellent. So they get points based off the number of blocks that are in the container, and if they stack up over the line, they get extra bonus points. So who do we have next? Just anybody want to talk about high school, kind of going all the way up through, or do we have anybody from middle school? Yeah. High school, Nick, do you have anything you want to add or share or demonstrate?
Yeah, I think Cam's gonna show us his robot here.
I can do that.
So, name of our game is Over Under. Main scoring object in this game is these green tri-balls, acorns, whatever you want to call them, but they're just made of a plastic. Here, I'll set this down. You can pass around, take a look.
It's if you could see the arena, there's a lot more to it. The arena this year has a barrier which they have to be able to navigate over as they're scoring those. And it also has a hang bar, so they also get extra points for being able to hang at the end of the match. And so when you look at these systems that Nick's going to talk about, we don't build them out of a kit. Everything we do is the design process. We identify, we're all over YouTube, we're brainstorming, and then we just go to it. It's constant iteration.
Yeah, so one of the main kind of variations between our three bots and sort of every robot on every team is the method of how you get the ball from one side to the other. And one of those ways is with a flywheel like they have. So what you can do during the match is you can pick these tri balls up from your corner and you can put them on your robot and launch them to the other side in order to score them in your goal. So what they'll do is they'll be outside of the arena, and then they'll launch it over to the other side, and their teammate can shove it under the goal. And that's one way that they do it. There's people that use catapults and, you know,
I taught them the math on
Yeah,
that.
that was very impressive. Thank you, Cam and Nick. So just to close here, we have a lot of congratulations to share. So just with our VEX IQ teams, this was our inaugural season. I think we learned a ton. We certainly learned a ton. I know our advisors did. I know our students did. So grades 5 and 6, those teams worked hard. You participated in a local tournament. Congratulations. You finished in those tournaments. You finished in the top 10 out of 26 teams. So that deserves congratulations. And in our 7th through 8th, our junior high teams participated in 2 local tournaments. They qualified and participated in the New York State VEX IQ Championship. So again, you participated in a statewide tournament. Congratulations there. And then our 3 teams in the high school, they participated, as Mr. Strobel said, across the state, local, regional tournaments. They qualified for the New York State VRC Championship, which was just occurred this past weekend. All 3 teams reached the quarterfinals. So that's out of 56 teams in the state. All 3 teams reached the quarterfinals. And so 2 of our teams actually went up against each other in the finals, which was really, really awesome, but unique for us. And 64040C finished 3rd out of 56 in New York State in the New York State Championship. So congratulations to that team. And then 64040B actually won the entire state championship. So congratulations. Both teams, as Mr. Strobel said, both teams have qualified for Worlds, so they'll be heading off to Dallas, Texas. We wish you all the best in your competition there and getting to know other teams and just that whole experience. So both teams will be going off, and we're just so thankful and excited for them. So congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to our advisors for a great season. It's still going for high school, but congratulations again, and thank you so much. Does the board have any questions for any of our students or advisors?
I have a quick comment. I just want to say that in my entire long life, I have never heard the word bubbly and engineering used in the same sentence. So that was really great to hear. Thank you, all of you.
I just want to say that and involved in this, you guys do a ton of work and you spend hundreds of hours down there, but you guys create a culture and an environment where you allow them to make mistakes and do their own thing and figure it out on their own. I think that's probably the biggest part is you don't micromanage them. You let them figure it out on their own, and that's huge. And I didn't realize the program has only been around since 2016 because the success that you've had has been phenomenal. So congratulations to everybody.
I want to just give a big congratulations for your dedication to this and your investment in it. And when you were explaining what you liked about it, I just heard relationships, relationships, relationships. And I wasn't even expecting that. I was expecting to hear more about like strategy and working with the robotics. And I know that's a big part of it, but it's nice to hear that outcome of the connection there. And big kudos to all the advisors and teachers that are working with this, making the curricular connections and really dedicating all of this time to the process and the competitions and the championships. That's a lot of time outside of the regular workday. And I'm so appreciative that we have educators here that are spending time dedicated to all of you students. So thank you.
I'll just make a comment also. I can't tell you how impressed I am with all of you. It's just amazing. As Trish said, I know that like the opportunity to build new friend groups with just, within your own school and outside of the school, that is life, new friends is life. And that's just, as you all said, very powerful. This program is giving you that. You're bringing yourself to that, and you're getting these amazing life skills. This is a life sport here. And anyway, it's just really wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of this with us tonight.
Free to go. It's free to go. So thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks. Thanks, man. Great job. Nice job. Good luck in Dallas. We'll just do a quick transition here.
Nine per se. Are these numbered, the bases? Wait.
Okay, well, just a moment here and let things settle down, and we'll move on to the next agenda item.
Yeah, that's very great. Oh, yeah.
Okay, are we all set? The next agenda item is the instructional budget presentation with Bonnie Hart, our business official. Well, just another moment while the crowd is dissipating. Thank you.
So that presentation was a nice segue into the instructional budget presentation. That was just one example of dozens and dozens of extracurricular, co-curriculars that our student opportunities that our students have and that they vest into, and you could see the success there. In terms of the instructional budget, as we say last month, this month, next month, it is a work in progress. At this time, we're getting closer with our exact costs, but there are still some unknowns, mostly the state aid situation. I want to stress, and I'll stress it several times throughout the presentation, this part of the instructional budget is optimistically assuming foundation aid is fully restored. Okay. So everything I put here is based on if we are receiving all of our foundation aid. During budgeting, there's lots of steps that go into the budget process, but we always want to make sure our decisions are student-centered and aligned to our mission, vision, and values. So just to review, and I'll go through another slide in just a minute, our vision here is engaging an innovative learning environment for each student. We just witnessed, our presentation. Also, this picture is a good example of our student connections to extracurricular opportunities as well. This is an example of a science club this year where our elementary students would work with our high school students to do science experiments here. You will see in this next slide the different components of the instructional budget. 100% of them involve and impact students. So there's 4 components to the instructional budget. The first is supervision and improvement, instructional media, pupil services, and teaching. Under supervision and improvement, this is primarily administration as well as in-service and training. A lot of BOCES costs fall into this category. Instructional media is our library and our technology in computer-assisted technology. Teaching is pretty obvious. It's our K-12 instructional salaries, our students with special needs, occupational education, field trips, remediation. And pupil services is our co-curricular, extracurricular athletics, health services, our SROs, our school resource officers. So those are the different components. And you can see within each one, I just highlighted again some keywords from the mission, from the vision of the district, including opportunities, comprehensive engagement, innovation, best practices. These components all support our vision. Again, keeping the child at the center of all decisions. Again, this is a huge component centered around students. So when we get specific to the instructional budget, I have this represented in a few ways. Here are our 4 components. We have last year's adopted budget figures, just in plain old numbers. You could see where we were last year. The proposed budget, again, assuming foundation aid is fully restored. And then the net dollar change and percent change. And you'll see quite a significant decrease there. And I'm going to go into that in greater detail shortly. In the event foundation aid is not fully restored, there will be significant changes, especially to this portion of the overall budget, where we will definitely see impact to many programs. This is another visual of the same information, but just broken into a pie chart. Instead of straight dollars, you could see the overall distribution of the instructional categories. The largest part of the pie is what you would expect to be teaching. Next and close behind that is our instructional media, as well as pupil services. And the smallest part to the overall instructional budget is the administration and the improvement. So some highlights to the budget. We were able to, at this point, maintain all of our programs and services, our co-curricular, athletic, instructional programs. We're bound by contractual obligations, so we are fulfilling our contractual obligations. Our BOCES services increase. We try to utilize BOCES as much as possible because that is our highest state aid in return. We are maintaining our software and hardware upgrades, our MacBook replacement cycle that we have developed. We are looking at a K-2 phonics program, new phonics program, which then we will have the professional development to support that implementation, as well as continuing with our math series professional development since that was new last year. You heard Dante Saletti talking about the middle school robotics. So we're looking at incorporating the robot system into the middle school curriculum. And we already have an established athletic uniform replacement cycle with the mandate and the change of the mascot. Some of those we're trying to accelerate a little. Not all are able to. We do have another year for that, but we are maintaining that cycle and possibly accelerating a few others. Those are what are included in the highlights or in the instructional budget. I do want to take some time because that savings is quite significant. Back a couple slides, the overall almost $183,000 reduction. So where are those savings coming from? There's several areas. One is we have a decrease in students attending outside programming. However, it is in proportion with our decline in enrollment. So this chart I thought would be helpful to look at what are outside program opportunities that our students have available for them. And over the last 5 years, 4 years current in the past and upcoming next year, where our numbers are, how many students are taking advantage of these outside programs. This is in addition to our already rich curriculum we have in-house, but some of these programs are, outside vocational fields, early college, high school. They're all very costly. So when we see a decrease in our numbers, we're going to have a savings in that overall budget item. However, we still have significant numbers going to these outside programs and utilizing these opportunities. New for next year, we are partnering with Warrensburg School, and they have in-house a construction trade program. So we're looking at sending some students there, work with our neighbor a lot quicker for travel as opposed to going down to Meyer Center. In addition to the outside programs that we have, our outside placements, primarily for students with special needs, have decreased. The number of them have decreased, however, some of the tuitions have increased. And the very large area where we have had savings is through our carefully thought out attrition plan, and we do have a reduction of force. So you have heard since 2008, and this was updated, we have eliminated 49.1 full-time positions. That is in all areas. That's not just teaching. It's across the board, all associations. In terms of the instructional positions, this portion of the budget, there's 30.6 eliminated. Understand instructional positions in this part of the budget isn't just teachers, it's assistants, it's teacher aides, it's technology support, anybody that has instructional with that. The staffing reduction is 22%. And at this point, we've had little to no impact on our existing programs and services. And we hope to keep it that way. This graph is a visual. So I gave you the numbers. Here's just a visual since 2008. The blue bars represent total staff in the district in all positions. And the red bars represent instructional, and you can see the downward trend, the trend line. So my next section of the presentation, I want to go back and review last month, just briefly, the non-instructional budget and where we've been, looking at the instructional budget and then forecasting ahead to next month. So remember, the non-instructional budget is primarily our day-to-day operations, building and grounds, transportation. This part of the budget, I went back several years to 2021. This part of a budget can have lots of peaks and valleys. You could see from one year to the next, it was a $49,000 increase, and then we went to a $440,000 increase. And in our proposed budget for next year, we're showing a very slight increase. The proposed budget is what we know and what we can use history on in terms of what our operating costs are. With a almost 100-year-old campus, we sometimes have the unknown and unforeseen expenses, and that is where then we need to look at other funding sources to support those needs, especially if they're emergency. The instructional budget, which I'm focusing on tonight, you could see over time that downward trend over the last 4 years, from having an increase to now each year it has been decreasing, which supports the previous slide of the decrease in instructional staff. You can see in our proposed budget here a slight increase for last month of non-instructional 10,000, and then this month instructional a big savings. Why? The next section, which we're going to talk about next month in greater detail, is the undistributed section. This is health benefits, inter-fund transfers, completely out of our control. I guess what was good is early on, we were given the warning of health insurance premiums were going to increase and increase significantly, 17.25%, the premium. At the same time, ERS, which is the employee retirement system, showed a larger increase, and they announced it early on than they ever have in the last many, many years. So knowing that early on, we had to really be thoughtful in these other areas of the budget because undistributed is out of our control. Next month, I'll have exact numbers, but I could tell you it's between an $800,000 to $900,000 increase from one year to the other. So we had to plan in the other areas for that. The next section of the presentation is talking about EV, electric vehicle reminders, and our mandates and what our plan is moving forward. This is a state initiative right now, and we have to adhere to our mandates. They may change, but at the current time, they are still 2027 and 2035. We have to be fiscally responsible and look at the long-term planning. So in 2027, all new purchases have to be zero emission or electric. By 2035, our entire fleet must be zero emission. We have 13 buses in our fleet that we use daily. We have 12 years to replace them all. So we do not want to wait until the very last year and have to replace all 13 or 12 all within 1 year. So like we do with lots of other things, uniforms, computers, vans, we have cycle. We have a replacement cycle in place. We have conducted studies on our fleet. Part of it was for our new transportation facility, but the other part is these studies are required for ending any funding that's available for EV buses. And 2 studies were completed with our current existing routes. Only 3 of our routes would not work for an EV bus. And some of those are the longer out-of-district place students that may be going further away than in Lake George boundaries. We're looking at gradually phasing in an EV bus as hopefully one per year. There might be an off year. A lot of it also depends on the funding sources that are available. So the studies show the benefits that we have a positive impact to the environment. We live in the most beautiful area, and this area is very aware of the environment, you know, with our lake. So the lower emissions just have a positive impact. The studies show that the buses are much more quiet, so they can hear students. The heating system is instant. They don't have to wait for it to warm up. And in the long run, the studies are showing that there's less maintenance and running costs because there's less components to the engine. We applied and we received the NYSERDA rebate of $220,500, which is exciting. So we just found out about that within the last couple of weeks, and our intent is to utilize that funding. There are additional funding sources that you hate to leave money at the table if you could possibly get them. We don't know if we will get them all. We are the EPA Clean Bus rebate or grant. We should find out if they adhere to timelines by the end of April. That could be an additional $145,000. We are hopeful, but we are not a priority district, so we very well may not receive that, but we still applied. And then there's a bunch of other, and they seem to be coming out quite frequently, funding sources that are available that we intend to apply for, whether it be for buses or chargers. So with that, we are going to put up a bus proposition this May. The bus proposition, when we take the cost of the bus, subtract the rebate that we were awarded, subtract our annual allocation of funds, ends up being around right now, about $150,000. So the proposition is not to exceed 160. The current price for a gas bus is 170,000. So with the rebates and the allocation of the funds, we are able to ban, which is bond anticipation note, and that represents like your loan. If in terms of our day-to-day life, it's what we loan. We are able to ban it over 5 years, which often the suggestion for EV buses is 8 to 12 years, but we're able to keep it within our 5-year cycle and within our 10 to 12-year replacement cycle. So as if it were a gas bus, all of those terms will stay the same. Our future budget meetings, April 9th, will be the undistributed in revenue. That very well may be based without a state budget in place. And then May 7th is our public hearing, meet the candidates night, as well as May 21st is our budget vote. Any questions? Yes, Trish.
If you go way, way back to that pie chart for the instructional budget, if we don't get the foundation aid, right, and we have to reduce this budget, would we be doing it in a balanced way, or is there one slice of that pie that gets impacted more?
Well, I would say teaching gets
Yeah.
impacted most, but understand the salaries for instructional media. So technology salaries, library, the librarians, the aides in the library, their salaries fall in the instructional media section. Pupil services, that's a lot of our extracurriculars. If we were to eliminate something there, that's the piece of the pie it would come out of. So teaching isn't 100% of the salaries that impact the instructional, but occupational ed, some of our BOCES programs are in the teaching. The advisors tonight, their salaries are not under salaries, theirs is under occupational ed. But I would say the primarily, the biggest impact would be under teaching, that category, which is teaching, teaching assistants, supplies, contractual within instructional. You're welcome.
I just had a question, Bonnie, under the instructional budget highlights, the savings slide that you have. The
This
C-
one or the next one?
That one.
Next one.
Okay.
The CTE numbers dropped pretty dramatically this year, and I was just curious if is that a function of declining enrollment, or is it attributed to something else, or is it not?
I think part of it could be declining enrollment, but that was slated to be almost double. And I know of, from my previous role, 5 kids that moved out of district. So we were, I believe, locked in at 11. We planned on 11. So a few kids changed their mind, but we did lose kids that had moved away. Pardon me?
Okay,
The
They were
22,
seniors.
23 year were many,
I see.
the cohorts are so different. So we wouldn't expect it just to be flat. Also, next year's numbers, keep in mind that Warrensburg is a CTE program. So we have 8 slated for Myers or SAAC, the 2 BOCES centers, but we have 2 for right now, tentative for Warrensburg. That doesn't mean if more students come and say, I would like to go, we say no. If there are slots available, which they usually have slots, they make slots available, we will let them go.
Is this the?
Say that again. Yeah, they've been New Visions.
Is this the first year that the IB program has been? No, okay, I was just curious about.
The opportunity's been there.
Yeah.
This is our first year of a student taking advantage of
use
it. Next year, we have the 2.
And then I just had one other question about you said that in the study that you did, there are 2 bus routes where the EV bus wouldn't work. Do you mean it?
There were 3 routes.
There were 3 routes?
The companies that we hired to do it looked at the distance and looked at, is there potential for them to charge in between?
I see.
And they did not. We do have a route every day that goes to Albany.
So the implication of that is what for the district?
So there's 3 routes currently that would not meet the range requirements of a bus, or of the amount of the battery. So roughly 150 miles. Those are the routes that, now the way our routes work is you have a morning and afternoon, and you also have an extracurricular. So there is one of the routes that is significant mileage across our district. But what they factor in is if there was no charge time during the day, could that bus make it through their entire day? That's how the study is done. So we have 3 technical buses, routes that would not make it. So what that means is we have to hope for increase in technology over time. So those would be the routes those would be our diesel buses or gas buses that we would replace last, and hope for advancements in technology. And or districts you have to get creative. So one of the things is you can, use an alternative bus. You can use a level 3 charger, if there's able to get it back, charge it at an alternative location. So those are things that we'll be working through over the coming years.
That's clear.
Does that
Thank
make
you.
sense? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
And next up, we have got our public hearing for the repair reserve funds.
This is an opening of a public hearing in regards to the district accessing our repair reserve funds. The desire is to use the repair reserve funds to replace an essential tractor. It's a 2015 Kubota tractor. That tractor has had a catastrophic failure. And through our, and it's really crucial to district operations, not only for snow removal, but maintaining our athletic fields and grounds. We've done quite a bit of assessment and taking it to places to get it assessed for repair. The repair is substantially surpasses the current market value, and we need to replace the tractor. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing. If anybody has any comments in regards to us repairing the, using the repair reserve funds. At this time, I will close the hearing.
Okay, next agenda item is the elementary update with Mr. Conway.
Okay. All right, just first a quick update on PARP. I shared with you, I believe last meeting, that we're going to be partnering with the Ronald McDonald House, and they led a wonderful assembly program. I don't know if I shared with you, the kids voted on the incentive, which is I have to shave my head if over 80% of the kids participate. So I'm letting it grow now so that it'll be it'll be comical. We're off to a good start, so I think that is going to happen. As of today, they'd raised over $3,000 already, and it's not based on how much the kids raise in the sponsorship, but the level of participation in the reading program. But we're off to a good start. The second annual career fair was held on the 7th from 5 to 7, and just thanks to Zoe Chodak, our counselor, for organizing that event, and a lot of our staff participated in many ways. But we had almost 150 students participate. So I think it was 146 or 147 kids that we checked in. And, you know, John was there and can attest to the fact that gym was packed. It was well over 300, probably 350 people were at the event. And it was great, something that we're going to continue to build upon. The arts continue to be very important as anything we do with our students. And today we had the Saratoga Opera in, and it was great. They took there was a little hiatus with COVID on having them come into the schools. Katie, the Strongest of the Strong, was the show today. And while I didn't get a chance to see it because we were in a long meeting today, the reviews from the kids were great, and the staff was really excited about it. And it's an interesting group. They're young actors from around the U.S. really, covered both coasts and north and south in our country, which is pretty neat. On the night where we had a chance to see all the great things going on in our robotics program, just want to remind folks that our STEAM night, where we're combining both our science and math nights this year, will be held on the 21st from 5 to 7. And I'm expecting a huge crowd. You know, our families are very invested in the good work that's going on in the classroom, and the kids are excited to share what they're doing. So if you can make it, that would be great. 21st, 5 to 7 o'clock. Keeping kind of with this science theme, on March 22nd, Jeff Bezon has organized a visit from folks from MySci, the Science Museum in Schenectady, to come in and talk specifically about the eclipse. So it's an exciting event that's happening in the area. We want to teach the kids not only what an eclipse is all about, but how to be safe. Because on the 8th, what we'll be doing is we'll be sending glasses home with all of our students. And for those students that are able to have a parent join them after school, we're going to have a viewing out on the soccer field and make it kind of a big celebration. So we'll not only send the kids home with glasses, and teach them about properly viewing. Information will be sent home to families as well about that. But then for those folks who can join us after school, parents pick them up and head to the fields for an afternoon eclipse event. Finally, I just want to mention that we continue to do work for our pre-K program, and very thankful for the work that John continues to do to support that move to having a pre-K in Lake George. Our parent information night is on the 25th of March, where we get to share a lot of the good work that's going into the program. Parents will have a very good understanding of what it will look like. And following that meeting, they have an opportunity to enter the lottery. And that will be open until April 8th. And then on the 9th, we have a lottery drawing. Right now, we don't know if we will need to, well, we will have to have a lottery regardless of whether we have 18 students or more, but 18 is that magic number. And students that did not get into the lottery or have their names drawn, they would be put on a waiting list. The parents get notified on the 10th. On the 13th and 14th, we have the equivalent to our kindergarten roundup, but for our pre-K students, appropriate screening that would happen for those children. And then over the summer, we are going to have a pre-K open house on August 28th. So things are starting to really take shape. We're really excited about it. I know parents are excited about it. They're looking forward. They'll check in, from time to time with different questions, and they're all very excited about that. So, we're fortunate, and I'm thankful that you're supporting this program. And that's all I've got. There's a
lot going on.
That much.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, we have the secondary update with Mr. Kokoza.
Hi, good evening. I'll be very quick because we're getting late. Just one quick thing. I should have jumped up during the instructional. I want to be clear about that CTE number, that anomaly. It's not because of lack of desire to send kids to the CTE programming. Yes, it's attributed to the declining in enrollment. We had a large senior cohort graduate off, and the majority of them, of that CTE number, they were seniors, so they graduated. And then those rising juniors didn't compensate for those graduating seniors. Plus some of the anomalies that we had of where we started the school year with kids who had expressed interest in CTE who didn't end up going. As Bonnie indicated, that number is getting closer back to where we normally are, not as high as we used to be, but that 1-2 year anomaly of having 4 or 5 kids wasn't because of any other factors other than just numbers. So I don't know if there's any further questions about that, because that's an important thing, because somebody who would look at that and know the history of our building would draw their own conclusions, and having that background is really important. So as a reminder, the musical is March 22nd and 23rd. That's next Friday and next Saturday. You can buy your tickets online at our website. They're $10, or you can buy them at the door. So next Friday at 7 and next Saturday at 7, and it's Mean Girls. I asked Sarah to post the winter athletic wrap-up to the meeting agenda. So in lieu of me reading it, you can just review it. It's a fairly successful winter athletic season summary of each of our sports, including our combined sports. And as Jim alluded to, March and April are very busy. We're sending VEX to Worlds. We're going to send FBLA to states. We have the musical. We have concerts. So there definitely is a lot going on. And that's my update.
Questions or comments for Fran? I just would like to say thank you for attaching that summary, because I personally struggle with trying to keep track of, I want to know how everybody's doing in all of the different fields, and it's challenging. This is very helpful for me.
Thank you.
And probably for everybody else. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, and Marianne, as a reminder, Scholar Athlete Team means 75% or more of the team's roster attained a 90% or higher GPA. So you'll see many of them have Scholar Athlete status, and it's that threshold.
It's just fabulous. Thank you so much. Next up, we have the superintendent's report. Mr. Lutheringer.
Thank you, Marianne. Just to piggyback a little bit off of athletics for a minute here, not only did we have our VEX robotics team participating in the state championship, we had our new, our newly merged Queensbury Lake George hockey team participate in the state championships as well in Buffalo. So two of our freshman students, Nolan Stannard and Rory Linehan, are part of this team. They are on the team. They compete. They play. It's exciting. I've been able to go to a few games, and they actually they beat a team in semifinals, and they lost to Skaneateles in the championship. So they finished number 2 in the entire state for their first time as a merged program. So really kudos to that program as well, and to our students. And we look forward to having many students contribute to that team over the next coming years. So really exciting news there. Great experience for them. Mr. Conway spoke about UPK. We're really excited about that. It's really hard to believe, but spring break is approaching quickly. It is early this year. So March 29th through April 7th will be off school. So it is coming quickly. And the day after we get back, and I'm just going to touch a little bit on, is the solar eclipse event. And I just want to say we've put a lot of thought and planning into this. It's a real delicate balance because we've just come off a week and a day of vacation, and for our families, many of them need to work and go to work, and we want our kids in school, of course. But we also want to recognize the importance of the event. And that's why we're really proud and excited about the things we've put together for our students, not only the educational components that Mr. Conway referred to, but all the different work that goes into this. So I'm just going to list off a few of the different things that are going into it. We did communicate that out with families this week as well. So we have purchased 2 pairs of glasses, safety sunglasses for all students and staff. Because we know we want our students and staff to be safe. We feel, even though we're not quite in the path to totality, we're in the 99th percentile as a district. So we felt that offering our families choice and where they would like to go, this plan gives them that opportunity. Our dismissal is right before the eclipse starts. So we'll have opportunities for our students to get home, and then they could potentially travel someplace wherever they may like, or they can come back and join us at our solar eclipse viewing event at the elementary field. The hard part in all of this is it's so weather dependent. So we're planning, and all of this could end up being for moot, but we are excited about it. So we've got the viewing event occurring. We have MySci coming for our students. Special, there'll be educational components in our science classes 7 through 12. Earth Science Astronomy and the Astronomy Club will be going on a field trip up to Minerva to potentially experience the path of totality. So our science teachers are taking many of our students up to Minerva School District. They've been wonderful partners with us in supporting our goal to get as many students up there as possible. And we have our viewing event as well. All after school activities will be canceled. We're going to focus on getting our kids home safely, allowing families to choose what they would like to do. And then we will resume sports practices after 5 p.m. once the eclipse is completely over. So we feel like this gives us a really good balance as a district, having our students here for the day, learning about the eclipse and other things, and then being able to hopefully enjoy it. So we're hoping it's a nice non-cloudy, non-rainy day for our kids. Lastly, I just want to comment on 2 last things here. So as the board knows, I did participate in Lobby Day. We were very active down there as local superintendents, participating in conversations with many local legislators. And what was great about it is that seemed to be all on the same page about the need to restore foundation aid. We've talked about that a lot. That was a complete shock to many people, the governor's proposal. Just announced today, which is sort of the next phase in the state budget process, is the one house budgets were put through and passed. So the Senate and the Assembly put together their own budget priorities. And in both of them, foundation aid, the Safe Harmless, was completely restored, plus using the actual inflation rate, not a different version of it, a different formula that was used. In addition to that, what I think is also very important is that there is an emphasis to look at the formula, which is what really needs attention. This is an outdated formula from 2007. It doesn't take into account the changing communities and the changes that we've been seeing. So we're hopeful to be at the table with that if that does go through. And now we know the next few weeks are going to be very busy at the state level working on the budget. We anticipate some level of restoration in foundation aid. So a lot going on, as both principals said. We're excited, and spring is here, and it's going to go quickly. So thank you.
Comments for John? Okay, thank you, Mr. Luthringer. Next up, we have the Audit and Finance Committee report with Mario Pasulo.
This is great because Bonnie did most of it. We reviewed the treasurer's report and the claim auditors report from January. There was nothing on there that was concerning. We did receive taxes on state land in the amount of $264,000, and New York State also transmitted New York State School Tax Relief, the STAR program, and lottery funds in the amount of 294,000. We also, right now, we're earning a little bit over 4% on our cash, and what the business office does is it leaves the money, the funds in there as long as they can, to be able to accrue as much interest as they can, only pulling that out for payroll and accounts payable. We spent time reviewing the tax cap calculation. The tax cap law establishes a tax levy for each school district, and it allows the school districts to increase their property tax levy from one year to the next by 2%, or the rate of inflation, whichever is less. And then there's this formula that I don't want to know about, that they use to figure it out. But then they're allowed to take certain exemptions in, such as a pension exclusion or capital expenditures, and that allows the school to boost their tax levy to more than 2%. The maximum allowable tax levy limit is 22 million, which is about a 2.69% increase over the 23-24 tax levy, which is what we're going to go with. Bonnie talked about the bus. The one thing John didn't mention about the tractor is, I don't think he mentioned it, but when the funds go through, we're going to declare the old tractor as surplus, so we'll be able to sell it and get some funds from it that we'll be able to recoup. And Bonnie covered the rest. I mean, there was a lot, which I appreciate you covering in the slides. That was it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions? Okay, next up, we have the curriculum committee report with Rosemary Earl.
Oh, good evening. So the curriculum committee met on the 13th of February, and we had a presentation about the curriculum for the universal pre-K, or at least the standards set by the state, the framework and domains. We also had a presentation about the computer testing transition, computer-based testing, and also we had an update on the renewal cycle for the curriculum. So if you look at the minutes that are provided on your computer, if you click on the presentation, you can really see what they presented throughout that meeting. And it was really very informative. The universal pre-K standards, as you can see on my minutes, I just listed the 5 domains. So we know what the students are going to be learning or what they're going to be focusing on throughout the year through their pre-K program. So that's the curriculum committee visited other districts. They had some great ideas that they brought back for our program. So I could go through and read them to you, but you can also look at them yourself. But the computer-based transition, testing transition was really interesting, especially for me, because I've given a lot of these standardized tests. To have them on computer now is different. And Megan did a nice job sharing the information on that. And also the curriculum renewal cycle. This year, for the full board meeting in the spring, we're going to hear from the ELA and the World Language Department on their research and audit stage. For the curriculum committee, we will hear about the developmental and implementation stage for the curriculum committee. So those presentations will be given to us this spring. And that's what we talked about. It's kind of fast, but if you look at that presentation, it's really, really good. So just breeze through that. Any questions?
I agree. I recommend taking a look at that presentation. It's very informative. Yeah. Okay, next up is the policy committee report, and that's me. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we have got 5 policies moving to second read this evening, which we discussed last month at our board meeting. And we have 5 policies moving to first read. The policy committee met a week ago on Monday, and the minutes from that meeting are attached to the agenda tonight. And each of the policies that are listed for first read tonight were discussed at that meeting. And so there's a good detail there for you to refer to. I will go through them a little bit there because there's just a little bit of a lot. Please bear with me and I'll try to be efficient. 5250 sale, loan, and disposal of school district property. We looked at that per our manual review cycle. The revisions that are suggested are merely wordsmithing to increase clarity and meaning throughout the policy. Policy 7110 is the comprehensive student attendance policy. This also was came before us by per our manual review cycle with additional consideration of the most recent Erie One BOCES update. So what you are looking at in this policy tonight reflects the committee's efforts to streamline the content, update the language, accurately update the language, and ensure that the legally required elements are all present. There are suggested additions, that one section on intervention strategies when attendance issues have been identified. Some of that was pulled over from the Erie One BOCES update. There was also a spot where there was some language pulled from our student-centered learning environment policy to really underline our recognition that belonging is connected to attendance. And mind you, the language was already in the policy, which was great, but we enhanced that section a little bit. And, to further reflect that, so our foundational documents, that's one of them, student-centered learning environment policy, really impacts everything that we do. And so you'll see that in that policy as well. Something important to note in this policy is that it requires the Board of Education to annually review building level attendance records. And should we notice a decline in attendance, we are meant to take a look at this policy and make revisions, suggestions as deemed necessary to help facilitate an increase in attendance. And I guess, we need to be working with the superintendent to, develop a formal process around that, and probably thinking to our new annual data focused workshop that we do, but that's to be determined. Okay, next policy is 7222 diploma or credential options for students with disabilities. This was looked at per our manual review. We had assistance in reviewing this policy from our counseling department, Steve Preuss, and the chairperson of the Committee on Special Education, Chris Mandela. They helped supply us with recommendations to update and make accurate the language in this policy. So we're grateful to them for that. 7350 is timeout and physical restraint. This policy came before us as it's an Erie One update that reflects amendments to the commissioner regulations. And I'm just going to bullet point the changes that are here. Number one, the title of the policy is now timeout and physical restraints. It is currently in the books as corporal punishment / emergency interventions. So the title has changed. This is now a required policy. It must be posted on the district website. These things are prohibited: corporal punishment, aversive interventions, seclusion, prone restraint. Those are all outlined in this policy. Physical restraints cannot be used to prevent property damage unless there is imminent danger of harm to the student or others, and only if positive proactive strategies have been attempted that were ineffective. And lastly, staff must debrief after any incident in which a timeout or physical restraint is used. There were a couple of sections in this policy that required district customized language, and the administrative team, school psychologist, social worker, and CSE chairperson developed that language. based on guidance from our safety care training program and New York State Education Department. And the next policy is 7460, student religious expression. This policy also we are looking at per our manual review cycle. It's currently in our manual under the title Constitutionally Protected Prayer in Schools. This is a topic that we have received guidance at the state and national level to really take a look at our policies on religious expression and make sure that we are clear and that our language is thoroughly supporting us. The policy that we have in the manual at this time is pretty short. It covers prayer. We looked at the NYSBA sample alongside this, and it contains the same content, but it covers additional topics of distribution of religious material, dress code, excusals from school, and access to facilities. And so when we discussed this in policy committee, the consensus was that the broader, the more expansive topics in the policy would better serve the district. So we essentially swapped the two policies out and renamed it to student religious expression. Now, the topic of employee religious expression, there's a NYSBA sample on that topic as well. We discussed that during our policy committee meeting. And the consensus was that, this is probably also something that can be very supportive for the district because that language doesn't exist elsewhere. So we will be reviewing as a group that policy as well in the near future. Let's see. Last two items I will mention, there were two other things that we discussed in the committee, and they're not listed for first read this evening, but at 3250 is the parent-teacher student organization. Erie Wambosis has recommended that we retire it because it's not really policy related, but it did spark some conversation about is there a use for language that addresses the relationship between the district and affiliated organizations. And so we're going to do some research on that and we'll get back to you. And then the last one is that we talked about was 7313, suspension of students. Two things about this policy. This also came before us per our manual review cycle, and I think it is the very last one that is dated as far back as 2013. Currently, again, at the state and national level, we are receiving guidance to start making a shift through board policy, code of conduct, et cetera, a shift away from exclusionary practices, disciplinary practices, which includes suspension, reliance on those practices, and shift toward inclusion of restorative practice. So a shift from traditional justice to the inclusion of restorative justice. And so we spent some time discussing that. In addition, Superintendent Luthringer had done some research and discovered that it is not common for school districts to have a standalone suspension policy for students. And generally, districts will maintain that content in their code of conduct. Our code of conduct is currently under review by a multi-stakeholder committee. And so what we decided, and the administrative team with the superintendent has developed some initial restorative language elements that they will work with the rest of the multi-stakeholder committee to incorporate into the code of conduct as like a starting path, a starting point for a path toward more formal restorative practices. And so as a policy committee, we have decided to sit tight with the suspension policy until that code of conduct is completed. And then we will take another look at that policy and determine what we want to do with it, or what we want to recommend that we do with it. Thank you for bearing with me. That was a long report, but I think it's important. There were a lot of kind of couple of big policies in there and concepts to bring up and make you aware of. Any questions? Comment? Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not fully clued in. So I guess I didn't really know there's a code of conduct review going on. So is there any timeline for when that committee is planning on having?
So the district code of conduct has, gets reviewed annually and by a multi-stakeholder committee. So a large group of people. And this year, the Health and Safety and Wellness Committee has been tasked with conducting that review. And it's happening right now. And I don't know exactly what the, timeline is.
So, yeah, so at our last meeting, which I think was in January, we sent that out for commentary. So that as Marianne mentioned, that group has parents, administrators as a board member on there. So a multi-stakeholder group. We are currently compiling all of the feedback and we are working on getting that. We had a deadline of April 1st. We gave the committee to submit their feedback. We'll compile that. It'll go back out to the committee compiled and for review. Their next meeting is April 22nd. So we anticipate we're going to ask that committee to review and come prepared to the next meeting to discuss. And then we'll hopefully finalize and be prepared for it to go before board recommendation for approval or readoption.
Sounds good. Okay.
So yeah, that is required every year. There's approximately 5 policies approximately that require annual review. That's one of them.
That's one of them.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Something, John, you can follow up on, but I'm just reading the religious expression and thinking about attendance. And we have one religious holiday on our schedule. And it's not a New York State. It's just our local desire to have Good Friday off. Is that why we have that on our calendar as a day off?
So typically we go off the BOCES holiday, the BOCES schedule.
Okay.
So that's where everything originates from.
Mhm.
And actually next year, it's not that way. So Good Friday is actually part of the spring break. But typically what happens with the school calendar is we start with the BOCES calendar. We do not want to be too off of their calendar because then our students are impacted because they won't be going to BOCES.
Mhm.
So typically that's where it starts.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next on our agenda is the first public comments section. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment? Okay. Up next then is our school business consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the school business consent agenda items A through N. The first few are normal approval of minutes of our recent board meeting, recommendations from the special education department, treasurers and extracurricular activities, funds and warrants, and the claims auditor report. Item E is a motion for us to cooperate, to continue to cooperate in a cooperative purchasing program through our local BOCES for school lunch commodities as presented. Item F is a motion for our policy review as shared earlier by Marianne. Item G is a motion to authorize the district to submit an application for a merger for Lake George Central School District and Warrensburg to form a singular wrestling team. So this has been an existing program. This is a requirement each year. You'll see the next two are also pertaining to athletic mergers. Item H is the motion to approve a merger to form a singular ice hockey team between Lake George Central School District and Queensbury Union Free School District for the 2024-25 hockey season. And item I is a motion to authorize an application to be submitted for a singular alpine ski team where Warrensburg Central School District and Bolton merge with Lake George for that team. Oh, and more, sorry. Item J is a motion to accept the grant for $1,000 from Advisors of Adirondack Foreign Language to be used to support World Languages Program. We have a motion to accept the audited federal award statement And item L is a motion to declare the 2015 Kubota tractor, as discussed earlier, as surplus property to be put out to auction. Motion, item A is a motion to authorize the budget transfer of $39,760 from the repair reserve to cover the cost of a new tractor. And item N is a motion to approve the senior high VEX robotics team request to attend the World Championship VEX competition in Dallas.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Discussion? I would just say it's nice to see so many athletic mergers on the consent agenda and seeing how success of those. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item is the school bus proposition.
As recommended by the superintendent by resolution dated March 12th, 2024, the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District authorizing a proposition to be presented to the voters at the annual district meeting. So be it resolved by the Board of Education, well, as presented, Bonnie explained this earlier. This is in reference to the electric bus that not to exceed $160,000 due to the rebates and grant funding that we've received.
Second.
Rosemary, Trish second. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is the faculty staff recognitions. Item A, faculty staff resignations.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby accepts the faculty staff resignations consent agenda items A through B. Item A is a motion to accept the resignation of Kevin Boya from the position of cleaner nights. And item B is a motion to accept the resignation of Sarah Dillman from the position of school psychologist.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Janine? Rosemary? Any questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And the next item B is faculty staff consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff consent agenda items A through G. Item A is a motion to approve leave of absence of Morgan Burns, special education teacher. Item B is a motion to approve the appointment of Kevin Parrott as the permanent director of facilities 2. Item C is a motion to appoint Stephen Clark as the per diem school psychologist as presented. Item D is a motion to amend the 2023 substitute employee list of individuals not hired through BOCES. Item E is a motion to amend the coaches list and volunteer coaches. Item F is a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Lake George Central School District and the Lake George Education Association regarding universal pre-K teaching assistant. Item G is a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Lake George Central School District and Lake George Education Association regarding enrollment in the Anthem Medicare Advantage plan.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Maria?
Second.
Second by Trish. Any questions? Discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say,
Ro-
on the coaching, we have the varsity baseball coach. Is that like the person who's gonna be the men's varsity baseball coach? Like, he's kind of a big deal, isn't he? Like, is it like?
No,
Okay, I was just, I saw his name and I was like,
no,
what?
the coach, Paul Mound.
Yeah,
Yeah, Paul, so he's a former college coach
yeah.
from
like a
Union College. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
whoa. Yeah, okay, that was it. I was surprised. I was like, whoa. Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And I would like to just say a heartfelt congratulations to Kevin Parrott.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a heartfelt thank you to Stephen Clark for making himself available with his time and expertise. The next the next agenda item is Board of Education comments and discussion. Trish?
I just want to say that it is exciting for me to hear more talk about restorative practices. And to me, that means that we're looking at context and relationships versus just a transactional or a set script of things that we do if and then. But I know that that was a topic at the local Adirondack area school boards. And I think, was it Mario and Janine? Were you at that? No. Oh, you weren't at that one? Yes. Yeah, and I'm curious if there was anything that was said that resonated with you about restorative practice.
And so I was just curious as to that was my biggest curiosity with that. So in terms of the program, but
Sure.
yeah.
Thanks.
If we go into having more restorative justice, that's going to take a lot of training, right? Will there be some staff development and?
Yeah, so I
will there
think
be a
I think one of the
committee?
things that that's important is that there's many things that we're currently already doing
Mhm.
that fall into the realm of restorative practices. I think restorative practices puts a name to what the work that our principals and our teachers do when working with students. But
Very
yeah, to some degree, yeah, we'll definitely look into absolutely having some training as we get further along here. One of the things that we've talked about as an administrative team is an importance to have a consistent understanding of what it is, because it's philosophical, but it's also, there are programmatical elements to it. I started working with restorative practices over 8 years ago as part of a regional team out of Saratoga, out of Skidmore College. So I have familiarity with it. Sort of our administrators. We're going to embark on a great book study in the coming weeks and months, and we'll be working on a implementation plan through that book study.
I'd be interested to know what book you used. This is an interesting topic to me. Will there be
Yeah.
a student component, like a student as part of the restorative practice?
Well, so the whole premise of it is centered around students, but through the book study, we'll be talking about kind of the ways that we'll be looking to implement some
Like
things.
peer involvement in the restoration?
So there's, and certainly one thing we will look to do is provide the board with an update and some general information about what it is. I think that'll be important. So we'll be fleshing that out in
Sounds
the
good.
coming months.
All right, thanks.
I really appreciate your comments on that, John. And I do, it's like, it's new conversation. It's like getting the juices flowing a little bit and thinking philosophically. So, okay, I think what's next on the agenda is our second public comments section. Does anybody have a comment to make? And I forgot to say in the first section, anybody who might be listening remotely, if you have a question or comment, please email us at boe@lakegeorge.org, lkgeorge.org, and we'll be able to address that sometime after the meeting. I think that's it. Our last agenda item is a proposed executive session. The Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District proposes entering into an executive session to discuss the employment history of particular employees, that's plural. We do not anticipate coming back into session afterwards. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Rosemary, second. Any discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Oh,
That was
I
smooth.
didn't adjourn.
Oh,
Do I adjourn? No, we did that. We adjourn in there. Okay. Thank you.
smooth as silk.
Mary, Adam.